Ortho. Becoming an orthodontist means you got to do the residency, right? But then after the residency, it's time to practice. Stay tuned as we talk to a recent graduate of Ortho Program, and he's out there now living life as an orthodontist. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, the new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, surviving dental school, getting into residency, and then life as a new dentist. Also, life as an orthodontist, and that's the topic of today's episode. Guys, be sure that you are tuning in and sharing the content. Share it, like, comment down below, but also subscribe as well. That's right. Subscribe right down below. And also, this episode is being brought to you by GetIntoDentalResidency.com right here. GetIntoDentalResidency.com, a resource to help you match into your dream residency program this cycle. For more details, go down below and check that out. All right, guys. So today we got a special guest. If you've been following the channel for the last 3 years, probably 4 years, his face may look familiar. Why? Because about 3 years ago, we talked about this subject as he was applying or considering applying to ortho after finishing up dental school. So today we're here and we're glad to say that we're followed up. And guess what? Not only did he get into ortho on his first try, but now he has completed his ortho training 35 months later. So Dr. Minh, how you doing?
It's all good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man. So please introduce yourself for those that may be seeing you for the first time and meeting you for the first time as well.
Sure. It's thanks for bringing me back onto the show. This is my third time back. We did like the pre-application, the post-match, and now we're post finishing up residency. It's pretty exciting. But my name's Dr. Minh Nguyen. I go by Dr. Minh. Just there's plenty of people with my last name, so I like to go by my first name. Graduated from Howard University in 2018 with my DDS. Got into residency at West Virginia University in Orthodontics in my 34-month program. Just finished in April of 2021. So I'm one of the pandemic graduates that was looking for a job, found a job that I like. Crushing it, hustling right now, like working on a lot of stuff. It's been about 6 months exactly. So it's a good amount of private practice experience. I worked like right away, right after residency, and there's a lot to share with you and your audience.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into that, especially as it relates to ortho, right? But let's back up a little bit. Just one quick step, because a lot of people may not know, and maybe they want to know for themselves. Why ortho? Why did you pick ortho as a discipline within the profession of dentistry? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so why ortho? I asked myself that a lot during my third year of dental school. Initially, when I started, I didn't really actually want to be an orthodontist. That was the bottom of my list. But going through dental school, you try to hustle through your first 2 years of school. It's all didactics. You get to third year and you get into your clinic work. You're doing a lot of the treatment on the patients. You think it's really sexy to be doing all these full roundhouse cases and implants. Then you kind of realize it's like, wow, you have to prepare a tooth so much and it can get rather aggressive. And yet a lot of times, if you want to create a nice smile, you end up having to need some limited orthodontic treatment anyways to get the occlusion right, smile level lined up, and the alignment and rotations of the teeth. So then that's when I veered off to kind of shadowing a little bit about the orthodontic residency, just to see, if I'm going to do something or consider it to in my practice, I better do it to the level of a specialist. The more I learned about it, and it was just really intriguing to me because it's a giant puzzle. And then you have like just teeth moving ever so slowly, trying to piece it all together. And then even though it's a longer treatment time, I find that the results with a orthodontic treatment case has much more long-term benefits versus prepping all the teeth and creating this super nice white veneers, as even though it's really nice and sexy and stuff, but it's still just natural teeth. It just doesn't beat it. So I had the decent grades to get into the program, and then took my chances, and I'm like, I think I could really, really do this. No regrets at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember us talking about that transitional period when you were considering it. And I think you got some advice in addition to applying right out of school
Yeah.
for ortho to maybe consider doing a residency, AEGD or GPR as a enhancement to your application for ortho as well. So, all right, so cool, so cool. So let's talk a little bit about your training program. You finished up at West Virginia University. Is that Morgantown? Is the school in Morgantown?
Morgantown.
Morgantown.
Morgantown. Yep. Morgantown, West Virginia, home of the Mountaineers.
So let's
Touchdown
talk.
City.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your ortho residency training program. Some things that you liked the most, and what were some of the most challenging parts of your training program as well?
Yeah, a little bit about my program. Different programs vary between minimum 24 months to like 36 months is pretty normal range. My program was 34. Just a lot of times it's so competitive. You just try to go where you can get in. And that's how the match process works. So I was very thankful to go to West Virginia University, where the training was very, very clinic heavy. It was like 80% clinical work, 20% research. So it was a lot of patients that I got to see, maybe about, 120 full records of patients that I would see, ranging from children to teenagers to adults, phase 1 treatment, handful of surgical, a lot of class 2 cases, and maybe a handful of class 3 cases, wide range of stuff where you can, in your residency, is a time to like try out a bunch of stuff, different bracket systems, different appliances, where it's a perfect time to experiment. I encourage this for all residencies to, even though if it's a technique that's a little bit new to you, don't be afraid. Try those different techniques. Like if it's a different rotary system or a different oral surgery technique, my world's orthodontics. Try those other things where it doesn't cost you any money. The school is going to supply this for you. Try those things. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But as far as my program in particular, I find that there are programs that are very self-directed learning and those that are very more hand-holding. My program was very much self-directed learning. You really will get out what you put into it at West Virginia. So if you put in the work and have a good interaction with your faculty and attending faculty, chairman, and the program director, they understand that you care, that you want to learn more. So they reciprocate it and say, okay, this person's trying to go to another level. And you really do just get out what you put into it. So that's where my environment really, really thrived for me personally. I didn't really need a whole lot of hand-holding. I just knew what I wanted to learn. And, I would just try to work hard at it and just try to focus on that every day. And the faculty could tell.
Yeah. And for those that are listening and taking notes, keep in mind, like Dr. Minh mentioned, is that, every program is going to be different with regards to how they're structured, what their philosophy is, both treatment philosophy, but also teaching philosophy as well. So when you're going through your programs and you're looking at programs to add to your list, that's something that you want to make sure that you fully understand. And I'm sure also, Doc, there were some things that was probably one of the things that you liked about West Virginia. What else did you like about your program?
My program is actually rather small. It was 3 people per class. So when we go to GORP, or AO, we're like one of the smallest programs in the whole country. It's just like 9 people total. And other people will roll in with like 15, 20 people. So we just feel like so small. So you really, a key part with your residency, what you want to look for, not just the clinical aspects and the faculty, but when you're at these interviews potentially or visiting programs, get to know some of the residents. What's their personalities like? Where are they from? Are they from different parts of the country? Are they all from West Virginia, hypothetically? How well do you mesh with them? Because you're going to spend more time with them more than your own family or friends. I moved into a new state where I didn't know anybody. I just took my chances, but I know I visited the program during the application cycle. So a few months before the pass application opened up, I visited and I was like, oh, this is definitely an environment. I wasn't sure what to expect. Like I said, you're just trying to get in and get some face time. Saw the program, met the residents. I'm like, oh, wow, I think I could get along with these people really, really great. And we all gelled really, really well for 3 years. And obviously new incoming people come in and older people leave and stuff like that. But that's also really, really important as a dynamic in terms of your learning experience and how much, enjoyable time you're going to have. You're committing to a long-term home, basically.
Yeah.
So make sure it's the right fit for you on multiple levels.
Yeah, that's a good tip. That's a pre-tip. Before we get to the tips, you guys got a pre-tip right there. What about the challenging parts? What were some of the challenging parts coming into the program, or even throughout the 3 years? What were some of the things that you can highlight that were somewhat of a challenge?
Yeah, I'll have to say during your first year, of all the 9 official specialties, orthodontics, I think, is the most foreign during dental school. It's the one where using a handpiece doesn't make it. You can't prepare for it for SimLab. It's really almost a completely different type of curriculum and a different way of thinking. So there's a giant learning curve in like that first year where you can diagnose class 1, class 2, but then when a faculty is reviewing a treatment plan or they're asking you to propose a treatment plan, it's still quite abstract for you to visualize and put it together where you want to move the teeth and how you're going to get there. So even like once you understand what, let's say, the optimal treatment is, let's say if it was, extractions and the orthodontic surgery, but now let's say the patient declines surgery, you have to understand, okay, what are your compromises as far as how to finish the case? And are you able to predict those outcomes should the patient go down another route where, let's say, surgery was the optimal treatment plan? That's usually during first year. During second year, as your cases are rolling, you'll have the challenge of like some biomechanics, and teeth will move certain ways you didn't want them to, and you didn't plan for it. So you want to be working really, really well with the faculty, and like, how do I anticipate these plans, and how do you get out of it, when these problems arise? So that's a good part about orthodontics. If a tooth moves one way, 9 times out of 10, you can move it back the other way, and you can still recover your cases. In terms of, I'll say, aligners, even though it's a big wave right now that's really changed the landscape of orthodontics and even general dentistry. For those general dentists out there that are doing Invisalign, I'm not sure how well they'll really know like the attachments and stuff in like some weekend course. But I'm like, when I got into residency, I didn't really appreciate a lateral set until I got to residency. It makes a world of difference, and just a few key points of just what to look for, like how far you can procline the lower teeth, the position of the bone, the position of upper lower jaws will determine, what can you really achieve with aligners, will make a big difference. So even though we were in orthodontic residency, and most actually don't teach aligners because it's still quite new, you have to rely on faculty that know it in order to teach it. But there are lots of like online fellowships where that's one that I did. I'm not paid by them or anything, but I took one, and it was about 12 weeks long. One of the best investments I ever made. Now I feel very, very confident to treat almost any case with aligners. I do have my preferences sometimes with traditional braces, but that's all, again, another self-directed learning. No one forced me to take it. I chose to do it on my own because I knew what was going to be coming in the future, and I wanted to just watch out for myself. Yeah. And one last challenge, I guess I'll say, in terms of a more self-directed learning program, that's actually a challenge in of itself. It's self-directed learning. Sometimes in these sorts of programs, it's not entirely clear what you should be knowing at which time. So it's really, you should have to take it upon yourself to where if there's like a few faculty you really tend to gravitate towards, which I did. I had no shame when they were coming in once a month, and I would just hound them and just stay with them. And I wouldn't hide in like the residence room or anything. I would literally walk with them like a shadow, even if they were with another resident, just to pick up 1 or 2 extra, clinical pearls that I could take with me for myself. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. That's one thing I'm going to keep in my toolbox and use it in the future. So you have to kind of stay on top of yourself. And like I said, you don't know what you're supposed to know at which time. But if you stay on top of it and you hustle and you keep in touch with the faculty, they'll keep you right on track and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. And it sounds like from your experience based on your program, being proactive, right, is key.
Absolutely.
Staying disciplined to the fact that, yes, I don't know. It is self-directed. That means not only will I need to dive deeper into the curriculum and explore, but also I'm going to need to get that help, and making sure that you stay active or stay proactive in that learning process, and which is which leads me to our next question related to candidates. Like, as an ortho candidate for some programs, you need to be proactive, or you need to be able to do some self-assessment, some self-reflection as relates to your learning that you're receiving as a resident. So give us some idea as a former ortho resident, what are some of the characteristics that make up a good ortho candidate?
I'll try to go with it from a viewpoint of a program director if I was to recruit residents.
Okay.
I think if people didn't know, for the people watching and listening, the orthodontics specialty is extremely competitive to get in. Like, typically you do have to be like a top 10 student just by virtue of supply and demand. Because the demand is so high to get in a position, these programs can be extremely selective in who they take.
Yeah.
Now, does that necessarily mean top 10 candidates or top 10 ranked students are significantly more intelligent than, let's say, people that are in the middle? And would they make better orthodontists? I would say no, not so much. But a lot of times what I see is that the people usually in the top 10, and Dr. Hayes, you feel free to comment, you've seen it, they usually tend to be the real alphas in the class. They tend to really, really hustle, and they not usually earn their spot to be in, let's say, a higher ranked student. So by virtue of supply and demand, a top 10 ranked person, personality wise, is already geared towards being very passionate about their work, self-motivating. No one's really babying them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I find that a lot of those types of students, they're not in the top 10. So by that alone, now these orthodontic programs are able to choose from these people. Now, back to the original question in terms of evaluating potential candidates. I think starting one, despite, yes, I think orthodontists do get typically more financially rewarded in terms of their work, say, apples to apples versus a general dentist. But money is definitely like far from the reason why you should do it. So the first thing I'll question is your passion for it. Don't do this for just because you say you make more money as an associate. It's not worth it. Committing yourself to a 3-year residency. You're going to be doing this potentially for the next 30, 40 years, or however long you want to do this. Make sure you really, really like the work. So take the time to visit private practices, which I did. Take the time to visit multiple programs in different states that you potentially could be applying to. Ask the hard questions from people that are in practice, people that are faculty, as to why they like it, and formulate maybe a reason why you really, really want to do this. I had to really debate with myself. I really wanted to go down this route. I always dreamed of just doing full mouth rehab and implants this entire time for my dental school time. And then that's what my plan when I was going to get out. But obviously it just changed paths. Another thing I would look for is, I would say your work ethic. Is this person a hustler? Do they work, extra hard? Do they put in extra hours, let's say after 5 o'clock? You can always tell the differences in the people that really, really care about their work versus that don't. The last part is, I'll have to say, just your character. It's very difficult to assess that a lot of times because everybody's trying to put their dating face on, it's their first date. Essentially, you got to be on their best behavior and in the interview. So it's hard to assess, but in the long run, good quality character candidates will always shine through when they get into the program. And program directors can always tell. It's not very hard who really cares about the work and who doesn't, who gets along with those and who doesn't. Yeah. So I'd have to say those 3 things: passion, your drive for work ethic, and your character. Very difficult things to assess in just a 10-minute interview in a program.
It's tough.
Hard.
It's tough.
It's hard.
It's tough.
But you just got to do the best. And
well, that's why your application, even though I really do think that interview is it's really the last chance to make your list, your name to appear on their match list. There's a whole lot of preparation that goes into it as far as the application. And in that application, with your personal statement, you have to, like you said, you have to really zero in on those certain qualities, at least draw reference to it so that you can be invited to the interview, so that they can ask you some of those questions in the interview, right? Because the
That's right. That's
application
right.
is not really just to help you get into ortho, but really
Mm-hmm.
the application is to help you get to the interview.
That's right.
That helps you
Once you're at that
get to the
interview,
program, right?
once you're at that interview stage, it's all fair game at that
It's
point.
all
You can
fair
have 20,
game.
it's all fair game. You can have 19 other people that are 4.0s, and you're the one that's a 3.5.
Right.
But it's when your chance. Hey, if whoever shines in the interview at that point, that's who's going to get the spot.
That's right.
And when we were residents interviewing, I didn't once ask them what their grades were. I didn't really care.
Yeah.
I wanted to know someone that was going to like get along with me, because I'm going to deal with you for at least 1, 2, 3 years potentially.
There you go. There you go. And that's what I tell candidates. You guys are listening. Yes, the residents do play a part in the interview process, right?
Be nice
right,
to them. That's
Be
right.
nice to them, but also get to know them and ask them questions, right? Because
they're residents will tell you the truth.
The truth. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Program directors and chairmen, they'll lie left and right. Their job is to sell the program. So remember, that's a good part about the interview. Yes, you are trying to impress them, but they're trying to impress you. Yeah. Because you will rank multiple programs. So they're trying to put their best forward, their foot forward to sell the program so that you rank their program high.
Right.
You want to really to like the nitty-gritty stuff. Take that extra time, even if the residents have no vote in terms of whether or not you get in. Interview the residents that are already there and ask them the real harsh questions and just feel each of them out. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? If you were to change something, what are you going to change? If you were a program director, what do you want to be different? They're going to tell you the truth 99 out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah. What other tips and advice do you have for people that are applying to ortho? What other tips would you say, knowing what you know now as far as going through that application process? I know it's been over 3 years ago, but what other couple other tips, advice you have for candidates?
Sure. Even though like my application was done years ago, every now and then I'll get like a message from a young aspiring, let's say Howard University, D4 or D3 trying to get in. Let's say provided you already have good grades and you already have good letters of recommendation. If to get into the program, I think just by virtue of numbers alone, I would take the ADAT, even if the program doesn't require it. I don't know if I would necessarily have to study for it, because a lot of these programs, most of them don't really need the ADAT, but the few that do, let's say if you have like 1,000 potential applicants and a few programs require it, well, all the top 10% of these really, really good candidates that don't feel like taking the ADAT won't apply to those programs. So by virtue of just statistics, drawing your name out of a hat, by you just taking the ADAT, you're already in the hat.
Yep.
So you might as well just take it.
Yep.
No, and just do the best you can. It's not the end of the world, because the metrics of it, it's very hard to assess a candidate. I don't know one program director that's really assessing, unless you're like in a really, really competitive orthodontic program, which is not the end of the world anyways.
Yeah.
Take the ADAT just by virtue of numbers.
Yeah. And what about the GRE? Because I know
take the GRE.
Some programs require it. Even though I've talked to a couple of program directors that say the word is out on the GRE as far as how that's going to define you as a candidate and also as a resident. But
I took it because West Virginia required it.
Yeah.
But I'll just say some programs don't really look at that so much.
Right.
I'll put it that way. So just take it by virtue of, because it's a master's program. I think it has to do with the formality of like a graduate program. So the graduate school of the university needs a GRE. Just take it. I didn't even study for mine. Just click all C for all I can down the line and just get it done. Just get it done. I think I got like 40 percentile in the English part. It's whatever. And I'm an orthodontist now.
Right.
It has no metric as far as how I perform.
Yeah, it may be more of a checkbox thing for some programs, some institutions than others. But still, study as you can, prepare for it, take it. So that's a good tip. The ADAT. What else? What other tips for candidates?
We got
applying?
ADAT, GRE. Just take it. I would say, even though COVID and stuff like that could have slowed things down potentially, you'd be surprised how many programs are there actually don't get a lot of visitors. Like there's only like maybe 2-3 programs in the country that have formal internship programs. But if there's a program that you're really interested in, let's say if you're from like Buffalo, New York, and you're interested in going back to Buffalo, shoot them an email, the program director, and just say if you can just visit, just a little bit of FaceTime for like a day or even a couple hours could be worth it, because they will remember you come the time when they see your application that, oh yeah, no, this young man, Dr. Hayes right here, he visited the program. Let's at least give him an interview. Okay, sure,
he's got
decent grades. Let's go ahead and get him an interview. Let's just chat with him. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't
stand out. Anything. You got to stand out. FaceTime is the best time. Yep.
That's
right. FaceTime is the best time to stand out because it's easy. Like I say, it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And like you said, depending on COVID and whether or not programs will typically invite or allow visitors to come to the program, it depends. But you should seek the opportunity to not invite yourself, but ask if they have such an arrangement at that program. And if they say yes, then you put your hand up, sign up, and say, well, I'm coming. I would like to come visit. Right. I'm there tomorrow. And remember, get in front of them.
The people that are self-motivated, they're the ones that are going to do it.
Yep.
Versus it's about 10% of like super duper self-motivated people. Are you going to be in that 10%?
That's right.
You really want it? The worst thing that happens is they say no. You weren't going to go anyways. So it didn't hurt you by asking.
Right.
So might as well ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is good, man. This is good. You all that are listening and watching, go back, listen again, write down these notes. But also, most importantly, do it. Do the things that we are sharing as tips and advice and strategies. Don't just write it down, but figure out the way that you can implement what we're talking about. I'm going to fast forward because I actually want to spend some time the next time we talk a little bit more about, your complete life as an orthodontist. I can't remember. Have you done your certification yet for boards?
I am registered for February.
Okay, so that's coming up.
Exam. Yeah,
that's coming up. So let's talk a lot. We'll talk a little bit about that next time we get together. But as a segue to that, tell us a little bit about any special projects that you're working on now as an orthodontist.
Right now, on top of being an orthodontist Monday through Thursday, getting your life set during residency, one thing that really intrigued me was like finances and student loans. During my residency, when I was looking at potential places to have equity, I interviewed a bunch of financial planners, and I found one that actually knew how to link together student loans that were related to your taxes and your whole life in general. And that was a CFS dental division. So on top of me, studying a lot of finances myself, when COVID hit, there was like nothing to do. The whole program shut down for like 2 months. So I just went home. I just sat there for hours, learned everything I could on macroeconomics, microeconomics, tax planning, investments, student loans. I put that all together. And eventually I was giving these consultations to these dental students that owed like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in student loans as just a D4. And I said, okay, well, come follow me real quickly to my unit. And I would just pop it up in my little student loan calculator. This algorithm spits out. I'm like, oh, this is your plan. This is the optimal plan because of this. And I was doing all that, around the clock, just like for fun. Until one of my faculty just recommended to say, hey, have you ever considered consulting? And I'm like, well, I can't really charge, these students $500 an hour for my time. They don't have any money. I mean, I'm broke now, at that time, and, they'll be more broke than me. And then I texted my financial planner. I'm like, hey, we have these Invisalign speakers. There's 3M speakers for their brackets. And then you have maybe, CEREC machine speakers, but hey, there's no financial speakers. And he goes, no, there's none that exist, but I kind of see where you're getting at. So then we talked back and forth. And then now I became a orthodontist and dental consultants for CFS Dental Division. So full disclosure, I do work for them. So it is like a little bit of a plug for them. But essentially what we really focus on is guiding students or new grads through those early parts of your career to where you don't make those multi-million-dollar mistakes. And one is not having like the optimal plan for your student loans. And now my consulting thing has just grown so much. It literally started in April of 2021, and I am booked. I'm booked like 3 times right after clinic. Like this week, I'm booked out the wazoo. I had like 5 orthodontists direct message me on Facebook.
Wow.
Hey, I need help. I owe $900,000 in student loans. Me and my wife, we owe over $1 million. What do we do? I think we can cover this for sure in like another podcast. I can go into detail, but essentially, a lot of times when people owe more than $300,000, their optimal plan is to be under income-based repayment, where you pay 10% of your discretionary income, which is basically, if you make $218,000, subtract the poverty line. If you're single with no kids, that's $18K. That's $200K. Take 10% of that's $20K divided by 12 months, $1,600 a month. Very rarely feasible. But then what students don't know and your residents don't know, if you go into residency and you don't have a plan, you're already losing out and your net worth is actually dropping.
Yeah.
We only got lucky because COVID is 0%. But come January, it's going to go back to 6.5% to 7%.
Yeah.
You can actually be on an income-based repayment called repay and say, hey, I will pay back my student loans during these months, but it will be based on the previous year's taxes. So you file a 0 income tax return in your D4 year. Your payments per month during your residency is $0.
Yep.
Now, why would you want to do that? 1, each of those months count towards student loan forgiveness. 2, under revised pay as you earn, the government will subsidize it by half. So without privately refinancing it, you've slowed down the rate of your interest from 6.5% to 3.25% during your residency. So even if you only owe like $100,000, go on repay during your residency to slow down the interest rate. And now let's say you get secured in your job and you just go ahead and own a practice and refinance it, go on ahead and do that one.
Yep.
But a lot of times the number pan out to where it's more optimal for people to not pay it back as soon as they can. And a lot of times you should be dragging out for 20 to 25 years where your balance will be forgiven. And then you pay income tax on that money.
Yeah.
Based on, and that ends up being cheaper.
And a lot of people, and that's the thing, man, we don't get advice like this in dental school. Definitely don't get it in residency. And it's not until we've already secured our jobs that we start having these conversations. And I mean, just what you shared in itself, people are probably, their heads are spinning right now. But we're going to spend the time to actually go deeper into that. And we'll have you back on the podcast to talk a little bit more about student loan planning and financing and tips and strategies, because you're right.
It's another
whether
world.
Whether you're a dental student or especially if you're an ortho resident, where some programs you have to pay. I know one program you have to pay about $100,000.
I did have to pay $100,000, for every year. I did have to pay for my training though.
Yeah. So that you add that onto if you had any dental school debt, and that can be a barrier for a lot of people that want to become a board certified specialist, orthodontist, etc. So I think there's going to be some great value. So guys, make sure you continue to watch the podcast here and watch these videos, because we're going to have Dr. Minh back on, and we're going to be talking and have just a webinar just on that. Maybe you can even do a presentation, Doc. That would be great.
I'll do like a modified one for you. My normal seminar, I've given them to West Virginia, Howard, VCU, Case Western, and individual consultations. It lasts like an hour and a half seminars, but we could definitely like get the nitty gritty stuff of what your audience would really, really benefit from. And if they're interested, it's a total courtesy. They can just reach out to me anytime, and I just walk them through it, for their individual situation, because everybody's different.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, that's why you have to stay all the way through the video, so that you get these pearls and you get these announcements of information that's going to help you down the road. So thanks so much. Hey guys, check out these next set of videos right here. Hopefully these will help you as well. And that's our time. Thanks, Dr. Minh. Love, peace, and smiles. We'll see you on the next video.
Thanks, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you.